Welcome, everybody, to another episode of WRPL, All Things Consumed, a podcast where we talk about all things we are watching, reading, playing, and listening to. I'm Ben.
And I'm Steve.
And how are you doing, Steve?
Doing good, doing good. How about you?
I'm doing all right, just editing all of these episodes and learning of our funny little speech patterns and finding my voice very annoying.
Yeah, I imagine that's a lot of people who start a podcast realize, wait, do I actually want to continue doing this? Because if this is what I sound like, who else would listen to it?
Funny story real quick. I was telling my aunt that we did this, and she's just like, oh, can anybody do that? Like you have to sign up or be assigned a podcast or something. It's like the concept of doing this on your own doesn't even cross her mind. Like, well, then what do you do with it? And I'm like, well, you can put it on Spotify and Apple Music and YouTube and stuff. And she's just like, oh, very interesting. Just like way above her pay grade.
And it's just like, you could say, yeah, start writing a book, and would she just still be like, wait, can anyone do that?
Yeah, it's pretty much the same thing.
It's like, yeah, anyone can kind of do anything except, be a doctor without school.
Yeah. All right. So what have you been consuming this week?
Recently, I just beat Sleeping Dogs. It is a 2013 game where you play an undercover cop infiltrating the triads in Hong Kong, I think, is the city. Why are you looking at me like that?
I'm just looking at you.
Oh, okay.
Fine. I'll look away.
And so you infiltrate this gang and gain their trust, and hilarity ensues. It was a lot of fun. It's not... I guess it's Grand Theft Auto-esque in terms of, open city that you can drive around and stuff in. But you can't just massacre, but you can't pull out a gun and necessarily massacre a bunch of people or anything like that. It's definitely more grounded, but the combat is a lot of fun because it is like playing your own version of the raid. I mean, I think the Batman games do the countering and stuff a little bit better. It's very much the same sort of style of like blocking and then doing a cool combo, but it's not as ridiculous as the Arkham games. It's the closest you could get, I think, to playing a kung fu movie so far, and that's what I really dug about it. Even if you could tell who the villain was, the secret villain, I'll say, within the first 5 minutes of the game. So, but yeah, a lot of fun. I recommend it. It was only $5 on PS4 Marketplace or whatever it was.
PlayStation Store.
PlayStation Store, yeah, thank you. I know it's in the Marketplace. Last month when I got it, so it might still be there.
Yeah, I looked at what they had available because I haven't played a game in a while, and there just wasn't a whole lot that I cared about. And there were some things that's like, yeah, I guess it's cheap enough. I could take the risk, but I couldn't pull the trigger on anything. I wanted to get Psychonauts because Psychonauts 2 is coming out, and I hear Psychonauts is a fantastic game. But I think Psychonauts 2 is only an Xbox exclusive, so maybe I don't care as much anymore.
Yeah, it's unfortunate because there are select games that come out for exclusively Xbox that I would really love to play, but they're so few and far between that I never regret having a PlayStation.
Yeah, I think it's going to get better now that they have like Bethesda and stuff. They're going to have a much bigger library. But all the exclusives for PlayStation, I've come across like God of War and Spider-Man and countless others are just so good. They can have their Bethesda games. I don't think I've played a single Bethesda game in my life, so...
Yeah, I certainly have it. The great part about COVID was I was able to play a ton of great games. The bad part of now that I've played all those great games is there's nothing new I care about. And it's a bummer. Like you said, if there's something cheap, I may be willing to try it out. Like I would never have bought Sleeping Dogs, except that it was $5. And I'm glad I did it. But if you told me that game was $20, I'd be like, pass.
Yeah. There's a new Alien game, like Alien Fireteam, that I would really like to play. It's like 3-person co-op, just going into the hive, killing aliens, and I hear it's really fun, not extremely long. And I almost, because the reviews were pretty good, I almost just grabbed it. But I've also read that they have like 6 DLCs planned, and it's like, oh, okay, well then I'll wait a year
for the
definitive edition, and I'll just get it then, because I don't do DLC. DLC's bullshit. I understand why they do it. It's not for me.
Yep. Anything you've been consuming?
Nothing besides regular programs that are just on the air, like What We Do in the Shadows has come back for season 3. Did you watch the first 2 seasons?
I watched the first half, I think, of the first season and liked what I saw, but for whatever reason never really got back into it. And I know you're in love with that show. It's
a fantastic show. There's not a bad character. There's some episodes that aren't as good as the others, but for those who don't know what it is, it's 4 vampires on Staten Island who vary in ages. The oldest one has been alive for, like, I don't even know how old some of them are. I'd say he's been around for 3,000 years, and then one's been around for like 800 years, one has been around for like 500 years, and then the energy vampire of the group has only been around for 100 years that they've just acknowledged, and now they're going into his backstory. Like, he doesn't know why he's a vampire, he doesn't know how energy vampires are created, he doesn't know, was he born this way or what, but since he's kind of stuck in that 40-year-old body, you would think he would know, but it'll be interesting to see how they explore that in this season, because they don't talk about energy vampires nearly enough in the first 2 seasons. It's a fantastic show based on a fantastic movie, and I highly recommend everybody watch it. But the only thing I really want to recommend is, I've mentioned him on the podcast before, his name is Nando V Movies. He has a YouTube channel. His big thing is One Small Change. He will take, mainly it's comic book movies, and make a small adjustment to make a good movie even better, or a bad movie serviceable. And he'll even do full rewrites. And recently he did a full rewrite of Wonder Woman 1984, which I have desperately been waiting for, because that movie is terrible, and he kind of nails it. He cuts out all the Steve Trevor fat that is completely unnecessary and unearned and should have been saved for a part 3. He makes the wishes more realistic in a way, or it just makes more sense than a man wishes to become a wishing stone, like really stupid stuff. Cheetah makes a whole lot more sense. It's a very interesting rewrite, and if you like kind of fan fiction rewrites of movies, especially comic book movies, check out Nando V Movies on YouTube. So, you know that video I showed you, the guy Ben from Canada who made that Tenet video? He had 2 other videos released, and there was a series going around YouTube, actually created by Nando V Movies, where it was one marvelous scene, and threw it out to a bunch of YouTubers saying, like, what's a scene from a Marvel movie that's just amazing? You know, like Cap picking up Mjolnir for the first time, or the snap, whatever it is. And then he did one excellent scene that was about the X-Men. Now he's done one villainous scene, and I think his was a Thanos one, but Ben from Canada did Agent Smith from The Matrix and the interrogating of Morpheus, and it's just a really fun, good video. But he released a new video today about Too Fast, Too Furious, and why it is a very gay film, and it's pretty much like Brian and Roman are like bisexual ex-lovers, and breaks it down scene by scene of the subtext and the text, and it is hilarious. It is really funny, and it really makes you look at that movie in a different light. So, Ben from Canada on YouTube, check out his stuff. He does a lot of edits for Mr. Sunday Movies, and he's very funny.
I talked about the podcast of newcomers before with you, and they're still talking about the Fast and Furious franchise. But one thing that they continuously talk about is how unsexy those movies are, where, like, generally the most sexual stuff you get is there's one scene that opens with booty shots into like a car race or something like that. But really, there's not a ton of like kissing or sex scenes or anything like that. Probably the most of it in the first movie, but then afterwards it's all sort of, but all the sexuality just comes from like dudes being beefcakes with each other and or sexualizing their cars more than the women on the team. And
well, it seems like in each movie there needs to be one scene where Dom is like waking up in bed with someone. Like, he doesn't have a lot of super sexy moments. Maybe someone will jump into his arms and they'll kiss, but it's like it's necessary to be like, oh, this guy's a ladies' man. You buy it, right? You get it. He's not totally gay for his car and his friends' cars. And it's just funny because, like The Rock, Vin Diesel is just like an asexual nothing creature. He's not naturally sexy, and it's just completely forced in every movie he's in. I think it's XXX3 where he has like an orgy with like 7 women and they're all like fawning over him like, oh, what the most beautiful man in the world. And, you know, he wakes up the next morning and they're all just strewn about his bed. And like, I don't buy that for a second. I mean, sure, I bet Vin Diesel can get 7 women at one time because he has a lot of money, not because he's some beautiful man.
There is actually someone we used to work with at the movie theater who thought The Rock and I believe Vin Diesel were extremely attractive. There are people who find those men very sexually attractive.
I
don't know about Vin Diesel now. This was like 8 years ago, I think, when or more. But they exist for sure.
I get why people can say The Rock is an attractive man, but he is an asexual movie star. He doesn't have a lot of like love scenes in his movies or even romantic interests. So when you see like Skyscraper and he's married to Neve Campbell and he's just like, no, you're not. That doesn't happen. Is there anything else you've been consuming?
No. That's about it.
Well, do you want your weekly Walking Dead update?
Please.
Okay. Not a whole lot in episode 2. Nothing really to even mention, except, you know, Maggie did survive, and they all confront Negan for letting her die, but they all kind of like see his point and let him go because Maggie's like, we still need him and blah blah blah. There's one scene where there was a couple people in their group that agreed with Negan and was like, fuck this, I don't want to be down here anymore, and they bailed. Well, one guy got into the subway train from the other side, and they're trying to get through that door, but it's really kind of jammed up, and they're going to have to work at it, and he's banging on it like, please let me in. And they're like, okay, you know, have you been followed? And they're like, yeah, there's a huge horde behind me. Well, did you close the door on the other side of the train? And like, oops, and looks around and there's like a huge horde coming after him, and so they're like, oh, we got to get this open quick, and Maggie's like, no, you're not going to do that because you're going to just let him in. We're not going to be able to get it open fast enough. And they all just stand there and watch him get torn apart. So that's pretty brutal. It was nice like seeing him die and fall down and then get back up, and he's all zombified trying to get in. But then of course, like all the time, you put enough zombies behind the door and they're able to like push it open. This is a steel subway car door that these hulking dudes can't get open, but these weak rotting bodies just pushing against it gets it open. Happens all the time. They like knock down walls when you just get enough of them. And I can understand of a poorly made house or a tool shed or something, but this is a subway car that was like braced and locked. There's no way they're pushing through it.
Yeah, and I imagine at a certain point, like, there's things that they can push up against. And I get the idea, if you have enough force on something, you can knock down a wall. But also, there's a certain point, like, wouldn't the zombies at the front just, like,
get squished
and collapse? And
you can only have so many pushing on each other that force is transferred to the wall or the door or whatever.
Yeah.
It doesn't make sense, but whatever. Zombies don't make sense. The only notable thing I want to mention is Eugene and Ezekiel and their group. Eugene makes a plea to the people who are not kidnapping them, but holding them and processing them to see if they belong in their society. And he comes clean about, yeah, I've been talking to this person on a radio, and she promised that her people were safe, and he was just so happy to have a woman talk to him, that he was willing to like do anything to meet her, because then he admits that he is a virgin. All these years, even the like 5-year jump and stuff, nothing's ever happened. And even talks about like, yeah, I've watched plenty of people doing it, but I've never done it myself. And in a previous season, it was Abraham and Rosita were like banging in a library, and he like is peeking over the bookshelves, and Rosita's just kind of like, oh God, Eugene, he's watching again. And I think Abraham's just kind of like, don't worry about it.
Weird.
Yeah, I mean, because he's in love with Rosita, and
right.
And she's had this weird relationship. Like, she's with Gabriel, but she had a baby with the guy that Carl saved and got bit saving. She had a baby with him, but then he eventually died. So she was kind of in this like 3-way love triangle with like Gabriel is her current man, then she has her baby daddy, and then she has Eugene to like watch over the kid and like be her best friend. And I really thought they were eventually going to put those two together, but I don't think they've had a scene in like two seasons together.
Jeez.
Yeah.
Speaking of babies, have they ever done a scene, or have you ever watched anything zombie-esque where someone got bit and had sex with someone and like
transferred it?
Not necessarily transferred it, but like that was a concern, like, oh, I had sex with him, I didn't know he was bit. What's gonna happen to me? Like, am I gonna get infected? Could the infection take longer? Does it come out as a baby zombie? Is the baby eating the mom from the inside? Because that's, I guess,
no, the only baby things I can think of with zombies is Army of the Dead, the one showgirl, she was pregnant and had a glowing zombie baby. Yeah. And then Zack Snyder's Dawn of the Dead remake, where she's already pregnant, she gets a slight nick or a tiny bite from a zombie, and it takes her longer to turn, but her boyfriend keeps her like in a room tied down to a bed, and then she does eventually turn, gives birth to a zombie baby.
I mean, I guess it probably wouldn't be a reason that it probably wouldn't be a thing is on Walking Dead, these people have the zombies' blood splatter all over them all the time, and they're like coated in the stuff, but it's only saliva that seems to be a thing for whatever reason.
And in season 1, they talked about how it's in everybody anyways. Well, right, that's why you come back when you're dead. You don't have to be bit. If you die, you just come back because it's just in our genes. So I think it wouldn't really matter if someone was bit and had sex with someone and they got pregnant, because it's already inside them. Yeah. But they've never really brought that up again.
Yeah, I'm just surprised I haven't seen that outside of the ones you've mentioned.
Yeah. All right. Well, if there's nothing else, let's get to our main topic.
Well, before we start, we have a sponsor.
Oh, okay. Let's do it.
All right. Ben, you like coffee, right?
Yes.
And to drink a good cup of coffee, you need a quality mug to go with it, correct?
Absolutely.
Well, we are in luck. Today's episode is sponsored by Mug Shots. Coffee mugs with your favorite serial killers right on the side. Start your day off with a bowl of your favorite cereal and your favorite serial killer. If you're having a tough day, don't worry. Everything will be A-OK. Oops, sorry. Everything will be BTK with these mugs. Would you drink it with some ham? Would you use them by the dam? I do love coffee, it's my jam. I do love coffee mugs, son of Sam. Are they expensive? Absolutely not. They have Jack the Ripper, not Jack the Rip-Off. You can collect all your favorites, from the Golden State Killer to Charles Manson. Are these mugs in bad taste? Maybe, but if taste was everything, you wouldn't be able to get your hands on this collectible Jeffrey Dahmer mug. Sign up for the membership program and receive a bag of their own brand of coffee, Bundy's DeCappuccino, every month, along with a fun letter to decrypt from your Zodiac horoscope. Don't be a clown, that's John Wayne Gacy's mug, and pick up your mugshot today at mugshotcoffee.com.
That sounds like an excellent product. I know what I'm getting my family for Christmas.
It's a fun gift for the whole family, of all ages. Your ladies love your true crime shows, so give them some true crime to sip out of.
Sure, makes sense.
It'd be a true crime not to buy them.
Oh, Steve. All right, let's get to our main topic. Shang-Chi. Marvel Shang-Chi. Let's start off. Were you anticipating this movie at all?
Anticipating as... was I excited for it?
Yes. Yeah.
I mean, here's the thing. I anticipate it in the sense of I've seen all the Marvel movies. They have become event films, and if you miss one, even if it doesn't necessarily affect the viewings of other ones per se, you're also kind of like, when they make, because typically they're going to reference something in something else later down the line, and you just want to be informed. So unfortunately, they have mastered the way to get me to keep coming back, whether I want to or not. So I was looking forward to it, but not in a, I can't wait to see this movie.
Yeah, I wasn't super hyped. I like martial arts films. I just haven't seen a whole lot of them, but I appreciate a good hand-to-hand combat. And I was very worried that this was going to be like a lot of Marvel films where their action is good, but the choreography isn't amazing. It relies more on their powers than skill. And since Shang-Chi is considered the greatest martial artist in the Marvel comic book universe, I was trepidatious if they were going to be able to pull it off. And I'd say they do.
Yeah, I have to look at my list. I think it might be top 5. I mean, if it's on the top 5, it's the number 5. I do love Winter Soldier. I would probably combine the Endgame and Infinity War as one movie. I wouldn't make them two separate ones. And the first Avengers, and probably Guardians of the Galaxy's up there. But I really, really enjoyed this movie. I have nitpicks that we can get into, but I think Shang-Chi is definitely one of their stronger entries in the Marvel Universe, in my opinion.
I agree and I don't agree. I think this is a quality film with really good pacing, really likable leads, and fantastic action for the first half. And then the second half, I think, is not, and it's not the fault of the movie, is not the movie I was expecting. It kind of turns very mystical.
It does.
And I was hoping this was... Okay, let's look at the title. Shang-Chi and the Legend of the Ten Rings. What's the legend of the Ten Rings?
The legend was that they explained the legend in the very beginning, when it was, here's these things that this guy used to conquer, theoretically, the world at the time.
Okay, I guess when I'm thinking...
And they were lost into the...
Of the legend is like, where did they come from? And they just say, well, he found him in a cave or maybe in a crater. We're not sure. But then he used it to rule. Oh, okay, that's the legend. I think of the legend as where they came, and then now that we got them, now that's like modern day. Even if it happened years ago, that's the modern acquiring of the rings. And there really wasn't any backstory to them. They were just kind of like, it's a cool weapon. It gave them power. Let's move on to the real story.
And I think you're thinking of the Legend of the Ten Rings as the legend of this item. But the Ten Rings was also the name of the organization that was started, so it's their legend.
Okay.
Based around this item. I get what you're saying. I agree. But I think it's a poor choice of words, or maybe not a poor choice of words, but an interpretation of the words that others might get wrong.
It should just be Shang-Chi and the Ten Rings. No, take out the legend part, because the organization, the Ten Rings, what do?
Crime.
It's vague. It's, terrorism or something. You know, his father runs this huge operation that does what? We don't really know the bigger implications of what they do in this universe. All we know is what Aldrich Killian did, and like took the name and took this identity of the Mandarin and used it for his own needs. But what does the Ten Rings do now? It just seems like we're a very powerful, rich organization, and we're just kind of chilling. Because we don't see them do anything except stuff with the brother and sister. Mm-hmm. So I just think it's a really poor title. And I was kind of hoping this movie would be about, we'd actually see what the Ten Rings are doing. And maybe it's the father trying to recruit his son. We'll get into like things we'll get into that sort of stuff later. Let's go through the movie, or do you have anything you want to say before we like start it off right from the beginning?
No, I mean, we can jump in from the beginning, take it piece by piece. Okay. I get your complaint, but I Well, it doesn't matter. We'll get into it.
We'll get into it. Okay. So the movie starts with what's the father's name?
In the movie or the actor's name?
The character's name.
The character's name is Dad.
Character actually has a name. The movie starts with Wenwu, and he has acquired the 10 Rings of Power, and he's used it to take over land and amass a ton of power. He hears about a lost city that... What's special about the city? Just has special powers or something?
Yeah, he heard that there's magic there, essentially, and wants to use the magic to gain more power.
Okay. And then he runs into Xialing, and she tells him, fuck off, you're not allowed here, you're an outsider, we don't deal with the... and then they have a little fight, a little wire work.
Yeah, this is your classic Crouching Tiger, Hidden Dragon fight, if you're gonna kind of put a label on it.
But much more subtle. They're not flinging off trees, hitting it with their toe and flinging the other way. It's more like you get pushed and you glide across the floor. This was one of the best scenes of the movie. It was really expertly choreographed, and the looks they were giving each other of how impressed they were with the others, and it was just like very sexually... there was a lot of sexual tension. It was just wonderful. I love that opening scene.
I really like the look of the bamboo forest where they fought. Definitely was one of the more picturesque moments of the film, and a pretty interesting way to start off the hand-to-hand stuff. I'm not big on wire work kung fu per se. I thought it, like you said, it was a very charming little scene, and you kind of get why these two fall in love.
So they do fall in love, and she is... he's not allowed to come into the village, so she decides to leave. They start a life together. He gives up his 10 rings, and he's been around for like 800 years or something, they said?
I think thousands.
Thousands of years. So, yeah, and they have their first song, Shang-Chi, and Xialing is their daughter, who's a couple years younger. So, let's put a pause on the plot. What'd you think of the cast?
I really enjoyed the cast. I've seen Simu Liu. Is that how you say
Simu Liu? Simu.
Yeah. I apologize to anyone listening as we butcher these names. I think he's great, and he was a lot of fun on Kim's Convenience, and I think in this it definitely shows. I think the dude's a superstar, and I think he could definitely lead other franchises, or at least be a leading man in films, and I think we're going to see a lot more of him, because I think he's got good comedy chops, and he's definitely got the stunt background to be an action hero if he wants to be. And I think almost on every podcast we talked about, I've pointed out someone's a handsome man. This dude is very nice to look at. He is a handsome man.
He's a good-looking dude.
Yeah, there's going to be a new segment on our podcast. Who Steve finds attractive? And it's going to be... My pick is Simu Liu for this episode.
Yeah, he's really charismatic. He can do the fights. And I like that him and Awkwafina have a good relationship without being like a romantic thing. Even though it's like they hint at it. You know, he takes his shirt off and she kind of sees it for the first time and is like, oh, hey, what's going on there?
Which is weird that they've been friends this long and she's never seen...
They've never gone to a pool.
They've never gone to the beach.
Yeah. I mean, they live in California, never been to the beach.
Yeah.
And even like her grandmother is saying like, why aren't you guys getting married? And like, oh, we're just friends. And I'm very thankful that they didn't kiss at the end.
Yeah.
They kind of like do an arm in arm embrace, but it seemed more friendly than anything. And I really hope they just keep it, just let them be friends. They don't need to be lovers, especially if they've been friends for 10 years now. If it hasn't happened now, it's probably not going to happen. So just let them be friends. What'd you think of Awkwafina?
I've never had a problem with Awkwafina as much as other people have. I get why people have a problem with her. But I thought she was really good in this. I thought she was used adequately. She was definitely funny, but I don't think she was over the top and wasn't like yelling. It didn't seem like she was yelling out improvs that didn't quite land, but because the staff on the crew of the movie thought it was funny, they used it. I thought both of them did the comedy right without either one of them doing too much. Because I think a lot of Marvel movies sometimes are too quippy, where this one I thought they were both like kept it. It wasn't about like we need to crank out as many jokes as possible.
Yeah, I am one of those people who don't care for Awkwafina. I think she's in fine things. Like Ocean's 8 is not a terrible movie, but it's not made better because of her. But I think in Raya and the Last Dragon, she's awful, and it really hurts that movie. Her voice is grating. I cannot stand listening to her, but she's not as insufferable in this one. She really tones it down, so she gets a pass this time.
Okay.
All right, so movie picks up. Our two leads are just valets. And they're parking cars and having fun, and when they meet up with friends who are more successful, they kind of have to take a look at themselves and realize, well, they're not really living up to their potential. Then we have probably the best action scene in the movie.
For sure.
The bus scene, where all of a sudden some dudes just start going after Shang-Chi, who goes by Shan. Nobody really knows his true name.
Yeah, that was the funny thing. In the beginning, I thought I couldn't quite tell what she was saying. Like, I thought she was saying Sean, but then at the same time, like, is that just the proper way to say Shang? And it was really getting to me, and I'm glad that they, like, oh, okay, he took that name. And I was like, okay, that makes
And made
sense.
a joke about it, like, wow, you're really good at going into hiding by turning your name from Shang to Sean.
Yeah. But it makes sense why they released at least part of this scene online, because it is a great action sequence.
Yeah.
Like, I think the reason this scene works so well is because it's, with the exception of the big Bulgarian looking dude or whatever, there's not a lot of clearly there's a lot of CGI because they're on a like moving bus that it actually like isn't moving.
He's not Jackie Chan. They're not going to put it on a real bus.
Yeah, but the fight itself isn't over the top. There's not a lot of craziness. It's just straight hand-to-hand fight scene in tight quarters, and that stuff usually is pretty awesome, especially when you do it without a bunch of Taken style quick cuts or Bourne Ultimatum quick cuts.
Sure.
Even though I like Bourne Ultimatum, but
I give it credit for not being too shaky cam or too close, but it still needs to pull back just a little bit on some shots, especially later in the movie. Yeah, if it could just pull out a little bit and let me see everything, or hold the camera still and let them have at least 10 seconds of one single take and don't cut to a different angle. And it wasn't very egregious in this movie. It's still one of those things like, just let me see what the fuck's going on.
Well, I mean, I'm not an expert on filmmaking. I should be.
You're
but I'm
not? What the fuck are you doing on my podcast?
But, I mean, I imagine it might be harder to do those longer takes because of the CGI that's happening on all around them, and then also maybe even on the bus.
Sure.
But, I mean, there was that one scene where the camera is outside of the bus, and you kind of see him go across the bus and fight these guys. Yes, it was partially blocked. Because
when he does that Liu Kang flying kick into the guy, that looked real bad. It was jarring how silly it looked.
Fair enough. That being said, still the best action sequence in the movie. Definitely reminded me of a lot of kung fu movies of the past.
Yeah. It was good, and then it used Awkwafina's character Katie to good use, since it was shown earlier that she's like a pretty good driver, and she takes control of the bus. So after that, he has to kind of come clean that his father is this evil warlord businessman of power, and he's gonna go to China.
Go to China, yep.
Go to China to meet up with his sister, because they stole a little necklace off of him that was given to him by their mother before she died, and he's worried that they're going to come after his sister. So we go to China, and his sister is running, and I don't want to say underground because it's in a big sky rise, so an above ground fighting tournament with lots of superpowered people. Like, as you've seen in the trailer, you get Wong versus Abomination, which, way too short. I wanted that fight to go on a little longer. It's cool to take these two characters that have never interacted before, put them in an arena, and it was just 6 seconds worth of fighting. It was a whole lot of nothing. It's like he blocks, and then he teleports his hand to Abomination's hand.
Which is a cool move.
It's a great move. Knocks himself out. The end. And it's like, I wanted to see a little bit more, but fine. Nitpick.
Yeah, it was cool seeing Abomination solely because the MCU is, for the most part, I can't believe how much screen time Thaddeus Ross has gotten throughout this entire franchise. Like, he's been in a bunch of movies.
And his daughter, Betsy Ross, has not made it over, you know?
Yeah, they show a pic. I think Mark Ruffalo in one movie holds a picture of her.
Is it Liv Tyler?
I think so, yeah. I think that's in Avengers. So clearly they're not like what's the word I'm looking for? Separating her from him because he wasn't in that movie. But it was cool to see them make a reference to a movie that the MCU doesn't usually look at go for,
and has largely ignored.
Yeah.
with like a setup of the leader. You know, that was a very nice tease at the end of that, but they've never done anything with him.
Did he look? It's been a long time since I've seen Incredible Hulk, probably since maybe 2009.
He looks different, yes.
Yeah, he looks almost amphibian.
Yeah, he looks more like the comic book version. In the movie, he had like spikes on his back, and it was more of a fin. And then they added the little like side fins on the side of his face. And I think they made his face look a little more Tim Rothy.
Yeah.
But yeah, and I think he's a lighter color as well. Yeah, he got an upgrade, and that's fine. Whatever.
Yeah, that wasn't a nitpick. I was just making sure I wasn't crazy.
No, you're not crazy.
And then we find out that they fixed the fight, and Wong and Abomination are like buddies.
I don't know if they
coworkers.
I don't know if they fixed the fight, but I think it's almost like because when they leave through their teleport hole. Their portal. Their portal. That's teleport hole.
Portal.
Shortle to portal. I think it's like the raft. So I think he's bringing him back, and maybe it's like they allow him to fight Wong because Wong can transport him in and out of a cage without transporting him in a plane or something like that.
Huh.
So, but I don't know. Maybe they did fix the fight. That doesn't seem...
I was looking in the portal, but I couldn't really tell what it was.
I mean, it's just nondescript metal. So I would just assume it was the raft because that's always been the theory that that's where he went afterwards. Who knows? But I did find that kind of odd that he's just kind of like, hey, come on, buddy, let's go. And there was no hard feelings or anything. But
well, yeah, because I thought Wong said to him, like, next time, pull your punches a little bit more. Or
oh, did he? Okay.
Or you don't sell it as much. I thought he said something like that.
Okay.
I don't remember. That's why I thought that this was Wong's thing, and this is how Wong makes money.
Maybe.
It's just faking superhero fights.
Missed that. Before we move on with the story, did you notice they had a bunch of smaller cages where other fighters were fighting? I noticed
one of the guys from Iron Man 3.
One of the extremist soldiers, yes.
Thank you.
But who was he fighting?
That was Shang-Chi.
No, it was actually a widow.
Well, okay, that's what.
And she was in Black Widow, same actress playing a widow. So I guess after that whole ordeal, she just went into
that makes sense.
The fighting. So that's really cool. I'm glad that they put little things like that. And they even mentioned earlier about we live in a world where half the population can disappear, which I have a feeling they're going to bring up in like every movie for the next 2 years. They have to constantly reference like, yes, we are all in the same world and this is post-snap. We get it. But I like that they do those world building things, and it was good.
I can just see all the YouTube thumbnails of 10 things you might have missed in Shang-Chi, and that being one of them. It's like, look at these two who are fighting each other. Shut the fuck up.
I didn't miss that. I saw it right there. It was a big glowing guy. I can understand if you missed the widow because it's just a lady in black, but she has like the proper belts and stuff like that. So that was fun. So Shang-Chi meets up with his sister and is like, hey, I got this postcard from you. Why did you send it to me? And she's like, oh, I didn't send it. Which, I'm kind of confused. I'm assuming his dad sent that postcard, right?
That's what I was gathering too. Okay. And then, so did they go after him first because they knew he would go to his sister? And then it's like, so it's not like they were like, they could have gone after her anytime.
Because they sent her address on the postcard. So they didn't need to follow him to China to find her, because you would think he would know that she's running this huge operation.
Unless their goal was, in case we fail at getting it from him on the bus, this will send him to her so we have them both in the same place. Because I guess they got to get him to China. Or maybe, because, well, he sent that letter months beforehand or whatever. So maybe that the goal originally was for him to go to China from the get-go, get them both in the same place, and steal them both at the same time. But when he wasn't going, and then they sent him.
Okay, now we got to go. Okay, that's probably it.
Yeah.
All right. Wasn't made completely clear, but anywho, so she says, I did not send that postcard, and they get attacked by their dad's legion of ninjas. And really great fight scene on the side of a building with scaffolding and bamboo.
I really liked the scene too. If there's one complaint I had, well, it's a complaint in general about this guy's foot soldiers. I don't like that they all had futuristic glowy weapons. I get it. We're in a world where there's advanced superheroes and everyone's got tech from the Jatari. And this guy's got infinite money to make these like cool glowing ninja weapons, or not necessarily glowing, but like electric ninja weapons. I don't need it. I just wanted them to like use normal blades and stuff. Like they're all trained assassins. They don't need stun gun swords. Yeah, and it could be, well, one, he's been using the 10 rings and he has this advanced technology. So why wouldn't he pass down knowledge? I get it. It's just I didn't want it. And I think maybe a second part of that is, it's a very dark scene on a dark side of a dark building. So if you had some glowy weapons, it just lightens it up. Yeah, I mean, I get that from a technical aspect too. But I did like that because it was on the side of the building. Like, maybe that was the thing. Like, yes, it is dark, but because the city was so bright, I like that you could see a lot of colors in the windows as they were fighting. So, like, while it was a dark scene, it's not like you were lost if those weapons didn't have electric shock capabilities. Sure, for sure. But a lot of fun, and that's another action scene I really, really liked. Yeah. I'm just kind of sad that this is kind of the last great action scene, because I don't love much of the final fights. But we'll get to that. So, they get captured. Dad brings brothers... Well, sorry. Oh, did I miss something? Well, we see the dad's, I guess... they don't say it in the movie, but the character's name is Death Dealer, which is the masked assassin that trained Shang-Chi in flashbacks, and looks fucking cool. Yeah. I love the look of this guy, and they have this really good hand-to-hand combat scene, him and Shang-Chi. A lot of fun with that one. And we'll get into more of that guy later, but I just wanted to point out that we are introduced... Well, it's not the first time we're seeing this character, but it's the first time we're really seeing him kick ass. And that was a very good like knife fight scene between those two, and just kind of wish we saw more of that. Yeah, I was very surprised that we got more of what's Razor Fist or something. What's it? Razor Fist. Razor Fist? Oh shit! I was pulling that out. I was doing the taser face sort of thing. It's weird that this whole movie is a very Asian identity movie, and then you have this big guy who seems to be like the only white guy in the crew, which is fine. Like it's an international crime organization. It's just funny that like his second in command is just this big Russian dude or whatever, and then he's got no one else on the team. I guess they're all wearing masks. So you don't know. You don't know. Well, but it just seemed like an odd choice. It's a nice switch where you would have like this mafia boss and full of white dudes, and then he's got the one Chinese karate master as his bodyguard, and so it's a nice inverse of that. Okay, fair enough. Yeah. So they go to the 10 Rings hideout, and Dad is just kind of like
Hey, welcome back. I need your necklaces.
That's a quality.
Well, you're not allowed to do Chinese accent, so you got to give them another accent.
Okay.
Yeah. He takes their necklaces and puts it in a dragon statue that makes a water map to how to get back into where his wife lived.
Don't sound confused. That's exactly what it is.
It's just, I don't... Who built that statue? Is that some ancient thing he transported there? Why would the mom have a necklace that has two parts that would reveal the secrets to her city? It doesn't matter at all.
It doesn't. And my thought process was she didn't lose her powers immediately when she left that place. She gave that up when she had kids. Mm-hmm. So I imagine she knew she was going to have kids, and in case they needed to get to her homeland, she magically imbued these items and had this thing made so she could one day reveal to them how to get into the city.
Okay.
It's a stretch.
That makes sense.
It's not explained, but that's where my thought process is thinking about it.
Because Dad thinks Mom is talking to him from beyond the grave, says that she's actually still alive and trapped behind some wall, that her people have trapped her there, and he needs to get in there, and he wants his his children's help to break her free. And they're like, "You're crazy. She's dead. She's not back there." And what happens when you get there and you don't find her? And he's just like, "I'll just kill all the motherfuckers, and I'll just burn the whole village down."
Because they're all lying.
Because they're lying, yes. And so they're pretty much like, "Nah, we're not going to help you with that." And it's like, okay, throw him in the dungeon. Then that brings us to something that in the back of my mind was hoping they would do, but I don't know if it was necessarily necessary. We get reintroduced to Trevor Slattery, who was the Mandarin in Iron Man 3, or the phony Mandarin, the Shakespearean actor who was just a figurehead for a terrorist organization. And I don't know, did you ever watch the All Hail the King short?
I did not. I know of it. But
yeah, it just recently got put onto Disney Plus, and
okay.
I had never seen it, and I watched it like a week ago. And it's pretty much him running the show in prison because everybody is just so impressed with him, and they're all like his fanboys and stuff, and they're all like, "Do the line, Trevor, do the line." And so he puts on his glasses and does the "You'll never see me coming." And so he's being interviewed by what's his name? It's not Skip Pardue, it's another stupid name. Scoot McNairy. And it turns out Scoot McNairy is part of the Ten Rings, and it's like he smuggled in a gun and he was going to... It seems like he's going to assassinate him, but he actually is like, "No, I'm taking you back because the real Mandarin wants to have some words." And he's just going to gulp. And that's where it ends. But it's funny because they during the credits they cut to other people in the prison when he's showing off in the cafeteria, and it's Sam Rockwell's it's Sam Rockwell's Justin Hammer.
There you go.
And he has a little prison bitch that's fawning all over him, and he's just smacking his hands away "No, not in front of everybody," and just complains "This guy isn't cool. Me and Tony, we were cool." It was a nice, fun little cameo.
So, I love Sam Rockwell.
Yeah, he's the best, and hopefully he comes back for Armor Wars. So yeah, Trevor Slattery has just been in prison, and he's kind of the court jester for the Ten Rings, and he's just kind of gone even crazier than he ever was.
Which I'm glad. Like you said, I imagine they would bring him up, and it'd be fun to bring him back. And I don't think he had made the movie less enjoyable by any means, but it did make it a little bit sillier.
Yes.
And the fact that this guy who's been around for 800 plus years enjoys his Shakespeare routine so much that he's kept it around for years for him and the boys for entertainment, when these guys just don't enjoy TV up in this secret base, or
I guess
they just really like this guy. It seems like a weird
especially since he took his identity and turned it into something that it wasn't. But
if you told me he kept me alive as a thank you for like putting everyone off his trail, I could buy that more than, oh yeah, he's just a really great actor, so we keep him around for fun. It's like, nah, come on.
That's a good change. And then we're introduced to something I didn't see coming or knew existed. What was his name?
It was like Mitch or something.
Morris.
Morris, that's, yeah.
And the best way to describe it is if you took 2 corgi butts and put it together and then put some pigeon wings on it.
Yep.
Accurate. You have a Morris. And I think it is an actual legendary creature.
I think everything in this movie was an actual legendary creature.
I had just never seen this thing before. This 6-legged, double corgi butted pigeon wing thing.
Which... It's great that this thing, I assume, is a real thing in Chinese folklore, because it's going to make them a ton of money with plush toys and stuff.
Yeah. It almost
Which Disney always does.
They do, yeah. It almost looked like someone was making cute little flying teddy bear stuff things, and there was a manufacturing thing, and they accidentally sewed the 2 wrong ends together, and they're just like, what are we going to do with this crap? I'm like, if we put this in a movie, kids are going to love it. And everybody was like, "Aww," in my theater.
Really?
Yeah. Bunch of thieves. So then, what happens next?
So they use Trevor and Morris as a guide to get to go through this bamboo labyrinth that will kill you if you don't follow the right path. They use that to get to the secret entrance to this magical world where Morris is from, that has all these mythical beasts like phoenixes and 9-tailed foxes and
dragon horses.
I think
that's what they're called, dragon horses.
And giant Chinese lions that you would see like outside of temples, of the statues kind of things. And all those things look cool, and I really like the look of the place. They meet their aunt. Played by Michelle Yeoh. Famous Asian actress who's been in probably all your favorite kung fu movies for the last 20, 30 years.
And one of the only people in a Marvel movie who's been recast, because she was in Guardians 2. She was part of Sylvester Stallone's thing.
That's right.
And we also have someone from Captain Marvel is in Eternals. So, whatever. Jim or something. Whatever.
Doesn't
matter. So she pretty much trains them, gives them some snappy outfits.
Her people use dragon scales, then they imbue it into their weapons and use dragon scales as armor. Awkwafina learns archery, and his sister Xialing gets this cool rope weapon, which I think saw her use earlier in the movie, that she taught herself. How they knew how she used that, it doesn't matter.
It doesn't matter. But they had a bunch of variety.
And then Shang-Chi learns from his aunt sort of the wind technique that his mom knew, and it's not about like having closed hard fists, it's about sort of opening yourself up. So they're all getting a little bit of training before Daddy comes with his evil faceless army.
Yeah. We did skip over a part where Shang-Chi's mother is killed by like a local gang, and he doesn't do anything to stop it, which is really unreasonable for the dad to think this 7-year-old is going to stop a bunch of adults from killing her. But then he doubles down.
He doubles down.
Doesn't that sound weird?
He doubled down on
Shang-Chi's training.
There you go.
And really beat the crap out of him, got him to be the best there is, the best there is, and the best there ever will be, and sends him off on a mission, but he realizes, like, nah, this isn't for me, and just bails and changes his name to Sean, and just kind of goes in hiding, leaving his sister behind. Man, what does she do during that time?
Waits for her brother. She trains herself until she gets to 16 or 18, and then she leaves, and then from there she starts her underground.
But in that time, it's not like Dad took it out on her or anything, does he?
I don't think he, like, beat her or anything.
No, but it's like, well, I don't have my son, now I'm going to train you.
No.
No.
That's not what I gathered. I think it was just they didn't have a good relationship. And I imagine he was probably maybe verbally abusive because she wasn't him. Mm-hmm. But I think she just kind of had like a contemptuous, is that the right word?
Yeah.
Upbringing. And then she just left when she
Contentious.
could. Contentious, thank you. Yes.
And then we get a little flashback to, I think, my third favorite fight scene, even though it's short, and I like it more just for the cinematography of Shang-Chi's dad putting the 10 rings back on and then going after the men who killed his wife. Mm-hmm. And it's just like this nice pan around a room that uses mirrors and reflections, and it's just a fun, short little thing that shows just how brutal dad can be.
Yeah, and I like that you saw it basically all through his son's eyes.
Yeah, it's like the camera's down at his level. It's very low. Yeah, very cool.
Because it's one thing to grow up and have your dad be this kind, loving man, and then your mom dies, and then you just see him for what he was for essentially 1,000 years. Just a dangerous, powerful warlord, and just massacres these dudes.
Mm-hmm. So then we get geared up for the big final battle, which really reminded me of Black Panther. Scope seemed a little smaller. Like, their village just seemed like a hut and a little patch of grass.
Yeah, you really didn't see a lot around. And the other thing is, I feel like for as big as this evil 10 Rings organization is, it felt like they only brought like 30 dudes.
Yeah.
It just felt like such a small amount of people. And it's fine if they have a small amount and the village has a small amount, just because for scale purposes they could only really fit in this space. It just seems like you were trying to have this big epic battle that like lasted a long time, where I just don't really buy this small group having this epic battle because there's only 50 people around.
On someone's front yard.
Yeah, on someone's front yard.
Whereas like in Black Panther, it's not the greatest fight scene, but at least it's bigger, it's out in the open, and it didn't feel claustrophobic.
But we jumped ahead again.
Oh.
Before the battle started, Michelle Yeoh's character describes the reason these people are here and how they're the guardians of this gate that have essentially these demonic characters that lived for a long time that were like attempting to take over the world, and then their dragon was able to push it back and keep it locked. And so they've been here solely to keep these essentially demons away from the human world.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, soul-sucking demon things.
Yes.
So that's where Daddy thinks Mommy is behind this giant scaled door.
Yeah, this voice keeps calling to him, I'm here, let me out.
But
please, my love, let's be together.
Psych! It's actually Papa's soul sucker, and he starts banging on it with his 10 rings, and a couple of the little soul suckers get out and kill, what was his name? Bloodmaster?
Death Dealer.
Death Dealer. Yeah.
That was the part I was like, I thought this guy was going to be so fucking cool and have these great action sequences. Dead immediately.
Instantly. And then
first one to go.
The guy with the razor fist survives the whole thing. I was very surprised that he made it. But like the bad guy's weapons don't affect it, which I thought was a pretty cool effect of them swiping, and it kind of like cuts them, but it just like whips back. Only their dragon scale weapons can protect them, so they're killing them. I want to say that there's some okay jokes in this movie, and I laughed internally most, but the only time I laughed out loud was the Bowmaster is talking to Awkwafina and just like, oh, now don't die, and then instantly he gets grabbed by one of the soul suckers, and I was the only one in the audience that just goes like, ha ha! It's like, it just took me by surprise, and it had such a comedic beat, and I know you're supposed to feel bad, but it's just like, don't die, I'll do it for you!
Yeah, I think I was one of the people who laughed at that bit too. Because the one bit that I think was supposed to be this super funny joke, we're going back again, but I hated this joke, was Shang-Chi explaining his backstory, and then that lady on the plane intercutting with like, beef, the
beef or vegetarian.
Yeah, the bit just went on a little too long.
Yeah.
I don't know if you saw the same video where someone talked about Marvel movies where they they have a problem with like letting a moment be a moment.
Yeah.
And once I saw that video, that's all I can think about, because there was multiple times in this movie where it's like, here's a cool scene, but now we have to intercut it with a joke. And I just wish they'd do it a little bit less. Like, it works, it's an effective tool, but at a certain point, it's just like, it's just too much.
Yeah, absolutely. Agreed.
Yeah, so what did you think about the real big bad in this movie? Because I didn't see any of this coming when I didn't see the magical creatures happening. I mean, I guess we did in the...
We saw a lion.
We saw a lion. And I thought that was going to be... I thought that was going to be more of like a... I know the dragon was going to come because that was Shang-Chi in the water, clearly. But I kind of thought like, oh, maybe this magical realm is going to be like part of the backstory. And I kind of forgot about it as I was watching it. Yeah. But yeah, this thing that came out, I was not expecting at all.
No, and I got to give credit to the trailers for not giving everything away. I like when movies don't show anything from the last 30 minutes. But I was kind of taken aback because this is not the movie I expected. It's fine to have some mysticism, especially a very heavily Chinese influenced movie, but it just wasn't interesting, especially since it's never set up. We don't learn about it until like the very end, and we only hear about like his dad wanting to break the mom out of the cave, and we don't know he's being manipulated, but it just wasn't set up in any way. And so when it comes out, it's just like, okay, it's a cool looking monster or whatever, but I don't care. It's like introducing Thanos in the second half of Infinity War. You know, it's just like he just appears and has all the power, and it's like, well, who is this guy? What is this thing? And I don't think enough backstory was given to it.
I can see that it's, and I think normally I would agree with you. I don't know, for whatever reason, I think it worked for me in terms of, I like that there's a thing, especially in big blockbuster movies where they're afraid to take risks. With Marvel, they have a formula that they stick to. I kind of liked that there was something that just came out of nowhere, because I was not expecting this thing to exist, and how big it was and how scary it was. I think it looked awesome. And the first thing I saw was I saw it and I was like, all right, this is a Lovecraftian monster that I think Ben would just immediately like.
It's a cool design, just not for this movie.
Fair enough. I think we're in agreement that the back half of this movie is the weaker part, because I think both of us just love traditional style kung fu movies, which is this clearly was marketed as, and then you have this big final fight that's all super powered. The final fight with the dad, I didn't think was all that interesting. My biggest problem with the final 15 minutes is how intuitive the rings are. Like, they never explained how you really use them, or what their powers are. They're outside of blocking and shooting force blast and stuff. But it was just because he used the wind technique of his mom. Essentially, he was able to sort of get the rings on his side and use them, and then does some super move Kamehameha attack on this monster that just blows it to smithereens.
Yeah, I like the part where he's battling his dad and he's using his mom's technique of the open fist wind to stop him, and it seemed like the logical conclusion, but nope, there's giant monster attack the whole time, and it just doesn't work for me.
None of that stuff really bothered me too much. I just didn't love the look, and it's a problem with a lot of Marvel movies, is that for as much money as you throw at these things, I wish some of the CGI just looked better. The final fight on this rocky mountainside just looked so gray and unimpressive, especially since like the rest of the movie is kind of so colorful. Like the fight scene on the building, it was more visually interesting. The bus scene is visually interesting. Like, the whole movie's just filled with color and cool look, and it's very well shot. It's just this final bit on the side of this mountain is just not nice. It's not good to look at, and just looks cheap. And then, especially, then you have him riding the dragon, which if you look at Game of Thrones, all looks fantastic. And then you have this thing, and it just looks like a CGI bit from the early 2000s. And it's a shame that Marvel's printing money. Disney is making hand over fist money with all these movies. They're not struggling to fund these things. They could throw $500 million, and they still wouldn't waste. I mean, it'd be money that they wouldn't need for sure, but they have money to blow to make these things look a little bit cleaner. And I don't know why they are so adhered to this CGI look, unless there was no way to make the dragon look good with him on it, so they had to match it to this landscape that looked bad.
Maybe. I think it's more the fight on the side of the building, the fight in the bus are actual sets, and the fight against a big dragon scale door is a green screen. And that's it. Yeah. It's just like there's nothing real and physical besides the floor, and even that may be it. And then you have two people. Even if the bus scene is shot on a fake bus on a sound stage with a green screen, at least you have that bus there that they can interact with. Yeah. And they don't have anything to interact with except for themselves. And they can't even do that because
they're shooting stuff.
It's shooting stuff, and they're locking rings and all that. Yeah, that's why a lot of it reminded me of Black Panther, when they're falling down into the train sequence. It's just like really bad effects that they rushed out. Now, I will say these dragon effects and everything look better than anything in Black Panther. Yeah,
I think the dragon looked great. It's just when he was riding it, it looked a little... Yeah. Oh, him and his sister.
And his sister, yeah.
Well, I'm glad you brought up Black Panther, because this is the thing I mainly want to talk about, because I think a lot of people will like make the comparison to Black Panther because Black Panther was the hero for black people, and then you have this movie, which I think people will be like, oh, this is Asian culture's Black Panther. I don't think it's gonna quite reach those heights.
Sure.
Mainly because I think America has been exposed to kung fu and Asian movies a lot more, and people are more accepting of those kind of things.
'Cause that's what Asian people do. They do the kung fu in our movies.
Yeah. So it's like this movie, in certain aspects, didn't do anything new. But my favorite thing about this movie was how it just was. It didn't, for me, it didn't feel like we need to explain all this Asian culture to white audiences. It didn't have to go into some big thing about like why they do all these things in their culture. It was just like, yeah, this is just our shit. They didn't have to. They didn't explain anything, and I loved it, other than where these monsters came from. And
sure,
it felt like, I don't know. It celebrated Asian culture without beating you over the head of like, oh, look at this. This is why we are who we are, and blah blah blah. I think it was what more movies should be for people of color.
Yeah. Okay, so they win. Nobody of consequence dies.
Well, the dad dies.
Yeah, but he's the villain, so of course he has to die.
But villains survive all the time or die, and then they come back. Where I was worried that when they defeated this monster, that everything that soul got sucked out would just be like right back and go back in. Yeah. And I'm glad they didn't. I know it's like once your soul was out, you're dead.
You're done. Yeah. It's like a Starro. Once you get one on your face, you're done.
Yep.
There's no getting it off. So yeah, pretty much ends, and they're back talking to their friends, talking about their week of crazy adventures, and of course they think they're full of shit. That no, you didn't fight dragon monsters and stuff like that. You're just mocking me. And then Wong comes through their portal and is just like, oh, we need you for the Avengers Initiative, and pulls them through. And
didn't really say that.
No. He's like, you're very important, or
your life's gonna change. Yeah. You're part of a bigger thing now.
Isn't that what Nick Fury says? Like, you're part of a bigger world, you just didn't know it yet.
Something like that.
Yeah. So then we get a post-credit scene where they're analyzing the rings, and they've been like setting off a beacon or
to something. Who?
I don't know.
Which I imagine is a Eternals tie-in.
Probably an Eternals thing. They're not on any records of any alien artifacts or crazy mystic records or anything. So, but it was one of the longest mid-credit scenes that Marvel has ever done. It just kind of kept going. And we get Captain Marvel and Bruce Banner.
And Bruce Banner is back to normal.
Back to normal.
He's not Hulk Banner.
His arm is still fucked up, but why is he back to normal?
That's for a future movie to tell you.
But that was like the whole point of them merging is like they're not one or the other. They're together. So why does he get to be back as Bruce Banner? I don't get that.
So you can probably get laid, maybe?
There's size queens out there. They would love that Hulk dick. And we don't know that Hulk has a big dick. He may be a big boy.
Yeah, that's true.
He may have a teeny weenie.
Maybe that's why he's so angry.
And he makes sure his pants always stay on. That's why they never rip off. They got to be the stretchiest type of pants. Did you know in Ang Lee's Hulk, he tried to pitch to have Hulk run around with his dick out? And the studio's just like, no, we're not doing that, idiot's like, oh, but why his pants wouldn't stay on? They would rip out of it. And it's like, figure it out, dum-dum. We're not having the Hulk's dick flopping around.
We're not paying $100,000 for some digital artist to put a dick in our Marvel movie.
Yeah, that would probably kill the Marvel Cinematic Universe. It'd be like, oh, this is what comic book movies do? No, we're not doing that. It's one thing for Dr. Manhattan, only shows up, but this Hulk is running around. You would see that thing flopping.
There's a Mallrats Jason Lee character going like, yeah, dicks. What's Fantastic, Mr. Fantastic's dick like? Can it stretch or what?
It's a superhero secret. What about the Thing? Is this dork made out of orange rock?
Yeah.
Okay. So that's pretty much the end. When I walked out, I initially thought this was like a B for me. Mm-hmm. But the more I thought about it, the less and less I liked. And I'm giving this movie a C+.
Okay.
It's better than most movies, and the first half is really entertaining, and it had me hooked. But as soon as they show up, or pretty much it's like as soon as Trevor Slattery shows up, that's when I kind of checked out. It was just not nearly as interesting. I thought it would go a little different. So this may sound really generic, but here's what I expected the movie to do. Shang-Chi was sent away to go kill a person. And in the comics, when he does that, it's like a really frail old man. And he's just like, oh, why did my dad send me to kill this old dude? And it's just like, oh, your dad's had a grudge for years and he's coming after me eventually. And he's like, well, I'm not going to do that. I'm not going to kill a defenseless old man. So I thought they were going to do that. But I thought they would flip it, and he decides, killing isn't my thing. I'm not going to do it. Then that's when the guy who the assassination was going to be put on, he goes and kills Shang-Chi's mom. So Shang-Chi is actually kind of responsible for his mother's death. And maybe he doesn't know. Or maybe does. Whatever. So he goes off, and Dad is pissed. And so he really doubles down. Here we go again. He really puts all his effort into his daughter and really beats her down to be just a mindless killer. She's going to take over the 10 Rings.
That would have been the reveal of the Death Dealer. She was the Death Dealer the whole time.
Maybe she could have. Or she took on that mantle.
Yeah, because the Death Dealer is a character who has like a name and stuff.
Yeah. So then Shang-Chi does a thing where he gets noticed, and Dad finds out where he is, and he's just like, oh, my boy, it's been so long. Come back into the fold, and you can run my organization. And the daughter's like, what the fuck? I was your loyal kid, and you're just going to give it up to him because he's your male heir? And so it could have things of Shang-Chi talking to his sister, trying to get her back into the light, and I thought we were going to get more about the actual 10 Rings, where they're from and how he uses them besides just blunt instruments, and what the 10 Rings do, the syndicate itself does for the bigger picture, and maybe they're assassinating world leaders or whatever it is. And it would be a simpler crime story with this one special magical element of the actual 10 Rings, and it was more of a family drama. And when it goes completely fantastical, it just, maybe it's because it's not what I wanted, it seemed out of left field. and I did not like it.
Fair enough. I think we have been spoiled in terms of action movies with movies like The Raid, because whenever we talk about fight scenes, it always like there's no better movies than the Raid films. So if you're not like trying to reach that standard, or at least something like that, it seems like, well, you failed as a kung fu movie. Or it's something along the lines of what Jackie Chan was doing in terms of like doing like really crazy stunts that were all very practical. So we want to see more of that. So yeah, I think you lose a lot of that when you decided to go, okay, well, it's not about kung fu anymore. It's about fighting giant. It was practically the equivalent of a beacon in the sky, which we all hate at this point. But I think because it was so out of left field, that's why I liked it. But I think what we also didn't talk about was his sister in the film now taking over the 10 rings and including women into the group. So it's going to expand the world that way. So maybe, hopefully, in the second one, it's like, okay, we had the Beacon in the Sky movie. Now in the second one, if he is going to be, even though him and his sister seem to have left on good terms, she could become the villain of some kind. So hopefully there'll be scenes of him, maybe even just him, fighting like 100 guys by himself and just going through infiltrating the compound and just doing hand to hand. And it's like, oh, okay, I can't kill anybody. I mean, I guess he could have the rings, or she could do a thing where she steals the rings, whatever. But like, hopefully in the sequel, we'll get more of, okay, we're going back to basics of just Shang-Chi, just kung fu-ing everybody's ass.
Yeah. Hey, they could have split the rings, you know? He got 5, she got 5. And it's like, he uses his to do Avengery stuff and save the day, and she goes like, well, maybe I kind of like this power thing, and now I can take over this company. Because it really did seem like she went evil at the end. It's like, now I have the throne, I got the power, and then zoom out. And it wasn't like a hopeful thing of, look, I'm going to turn this organization around. It was kind of like, now I've turned bad for no reason.
But my theory that I was surprised that they didn't do, because I thought the movie was leading up to this, was I thought, well, one, I liked that, at least according to the film, he went through with it. He did kill the guy.
Oh, yes.
Because it would have been easy to go like, oh, well, we can't have this guy murder someone, because then the audience can't root for him, because he's not a good person. But it was just like, no, I did the thing. I didn't like it. I left. And I was like, okay, I like that, because it makes your character a little bit more relatable. Because like, he trained all this time and he didn't want to disappoint his father.
Yeah.
Why wouldn't he do it? And then once he does it, you know, killing someone is change. I imagine can change you and stuff like that.
Yeah, when you're training, you think you're hard, and it's like, oh yeah, I'm gonna do this thing and make Dad proud. And then when you actually do it, it's like, oh fuck, this is bad.
Because it might not have been a quick thing. He might have like burst in the guy's like pleading for his life, and he just, you know, and he's like does this act, and he just sees the aftermath and just deeply affects him. And I like that he went through with it. My thought was the movie at the beginning. He goes to Awkwafina's house with her family, and the grandmother's talking about, oh, my husband died whenever. I thought he killed him, and he felt so bad. He stayed in that city and became friends with her, or maybe even not intentionally became friends with her, but he felt so bad, and so he sort of helped look out for this family because he was the one who killed the grandfather. I thought that, and when he was sitting on the rock, he's like, I have something to tell you. I went through with it, and I thought he was going to be like, I was the one who killed your grandfather. I'm so sorry. I wasn't that person, and that would have this ripping effect of Awkwafina, like, oh, can I trust this guy? He like it's one thing he was a murderer, but he murdered my family, and blah 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 blah. I thought that's what it was going to be, and when it wasn't, I was shocked, because I thought like all the little context clues were there for that little twist, and it just never came. And I mean, I guess you could still do it because you never saw who he killed, and I didn't know that in the comics it was an old man. So you telling me that, I thought maybe that's where it was going to go. Yeah, you never saw him do his mission. I guess like if you saw him do the mission, it'd be harder for the audience to like him. And
maybe they already have this planned, and that's why they purposely didn't show us, because, or maybe they don't know who the mission was for, but it's like, we don't show it because we can save it for later.
Yeah.
This is a perfect setup for part 2, where, even though I said it earlier, like, I don't want them in a romantic relationship, if they were testing the waters and trying things out, and it's hard for him because he knows this is weighing on him. This is a good actually be a really good jumping off point for the sequel. Yeah, good job, Steve. I didn't think of that at all.
Yeah,
I'm going to tweet it. I'm going to steal it. And, wow. Good shit. All right.
I went onto the Marvel Reddit to see if anyone else had my theory. I mean, I didn't do like a deep dive. I just went to the immediate like Shang-Chi discussion, and no one really brought it up. Everyone was just like, "Oh, it was so great. I love this. I love this." So I was just like, "No, just someone confirm with me that like I wasn't crazy. That I thought that's where this part was leading to."
You're a unique individual.
Yes,
with a
I knew
big
it.
brain.
My mommy was right.
All right. Do you have anything else you want to talk about for Shang-Chi?
I have nothing else to add. I believe nothing at this time. I enjoyed it more than you. I still, even after our discussion and hearing your thoughts, even parts I agree with, I still think it's probably number 6 of my top 10.
I think that is
Marvel.
insane because this is the 24th, 25th movie. And so, yeah, this is the 20 out of 25 Marvel movies. This is 6?
Maybe.
No, not at all.
Here's the thing. I think there are Marvel movies that do a lot of things better. And I think this movie, maybe it didn't necessarily blow anything out of the water except maybe a couple hand-to-hand fight scenes. I think it just did everything right for me. And there was things I didn't expect. And I had a lot of fun. And even though we're both in agreement that the first half is much stronger than the second half, I was entertained throughout. I never checked the time once. I liked all the characters. I just thought that in terms of, is it a great movie? No. But is it, I think, a great Marvel movie? I think so. I think it just does everything right, even if it doesn't necessarily do anything better than anything else.
Interesting.
That's my initial thought process.
Yeah.
Maybe over time I'll be like you and like, because I really have only seen most of these Marvel movies once. Pretty much all of them, no more, or some of them no more than twice.
Which is also insane.
I think the only one I've seen more than 2 times is Guardians of the Galaxy, only because I was on a cruise where I was on constant rotation. And I was just like, okay, what else am I going to do today? I've done all the things on a boat. I might as well watch Guardians of the Galaxy again.
Man, anytime Infinity War is on like TBS or something, it's just like, yeah, I guess.
I mean, there's scenes I've watched probably 10 times, but sitting down all the way through, I don't think I've seen any of these movies more than twice.
Damn. I think Infinity War is one of the most rewatchable, not just Marvel movies, but movies in general. There's like not a single bad scene. Maybe the Peter Dinklage stuff isn't great, but at least he has Thor and Rocket and Groot there to help him out. But that movie is just so captivating.
That's why it's in my top 5.
Yeah, it's probably my number 2.
I mean, I talk about it every time we're on this podcast. My favorite movies are 3-hour-long movies with the Lord of the Rings.
Which ones? No, I've never heard you mention that before.
But I don't know. It's just with Infinity War and just a bunch of them. It's like when they're pushing 2.5 hours. It's like, do I really want to sit and watch all these all the way through again? It's like I pretty much know everything I need to know. And then when they add new stuff, people are always talking about in comment sections about, oh, did you notice this thing that connected to this? Like I don't. That's another amazing reason to watch these. That I keep coming back to these things, even though I might complain about them. All the information's there, and if I don't have anything, 1,000 other people are talking about this information. So I'm never missing anything. I don't need to go back and rewatch stuff.
Sure. Thanks, everyone, for joining us in the Whirlpool. If you'd like to get in touch with us, we are at WRPLpodcast@gmail.com and at WRPL Podcast on Twitter. Let us know what you're consuming. Until next time, I'm Ben.
And I'm Steve.
Goodbye, everybody.
Ben, you like coffee, right?
Yes.
And to drink a good cup of coffee, you need a quality mug to go with it, correct?
Absolutely.
Well, we're in luck. Today's episode is sponsored by Mug Shots. Coffee mugs with your favorite serial killers right on the side. Start your day off with a bowl of your favorite cereal and your favorite serial killer. If you're having a tough day, don't worry. Everything will be A-OK. Oops, sorry. Everything will be BTK with these mugs. Would you drink it with some ham? Would you use them by the dam? I do love coffee, it's my jam. I do love coffee mugs, son of Sam. That's my favorite joke I wrote. Are they expensive? Absolutely not. They have Jack the Ripper, not Jack the Rip-Off. You can collect all your...
Do it again.
You can collect all your favorites, from the Golden State Killer to Charles Manson. Are these mugs in bad taste? Maybe, but if taste was everything, you wouldn't be able to get your hands on this collectible Jeffrey Dahmer mug. Sign up for the membership program and receive a bag of brand new... Sign up for a membership program and receive a bag of their own brand of coffee, Bundy's Decappuccino, every month. Fuck! Sign up for the membership program and receive a bag of their own brand of coffee, Bundy's Decappuccino, every month, along with a fun letter to decrypt from your Zodiac horoscope. Don't be a clown, that's John Wayne Gacy's mug, and pick up your mugshot today at mugshotcoffee.com.
Excellent.
Thank you.